Well, the second one that is being honored during senior day is a big one. It's the 2006 Heisman Trophy winner, Troy Smith, and he's going to have his name and number enshrined at Ohio Stadium during the game. I bring this up because prior to the game, Troy Smith had some very complimentary things to say about his former head coach. According to 11 Warriors, Troy said, Jim Tressel taught him everything about life. He taught me what it meant to be a man. He taught me what it meant to understand the decisions that you make. They shape you. They shape everybody around you, and treat people the way you want to be treated. For everyone that doesn't know, Jim Tressel is like my dad. Now, that's some high praise, but it's got me thinking that people may not realize the positive influences that coaches have had on you guys and your development as people. I want to give you guys the floor and ask the question, which former coach influenced you the most and why? It could be a little league coach. It could be your dad. I've heard you guys talk about Coach Fickle. I've heard offline talk about Coach Smith. Why don't you guys just name one of the coaches that really had an influence on you?
Yeah, for me, on so many levels, Coach Smith did, and others while I was growing up in high school, like Coach Munkin and Coach Atwell and Coach Dida was my receivers coach while I was in high school. But I'd say like one thing that was really cool for me was that I was able always to look up to Coach Lovie Smith, right? Because once we got to Chicago, my dad first job in the NFL, black head coach in the league where there aren't many, right? I was always able to be around the program and see how he led. He's not a cusser or screamer really, but even in watching that and watching how guys respected him and gave themselves for the team because of that mentality was always something that I envied. And then once I got to the league and was able to, be taught underneath his program or, whatever you want to use. And, really not have a leg up, over anybody else and be treated very objectively, but to still get that same love that everybody else did was super cool for me. So Coach Lovie Smith was definitely one of those characters or one of those coaches that, I draw back on as being one of the most influential.
How about you, Joshua?
So I'll comment on what Evan just said. I don't know Coach Lovie at all. I cover him in the Big Ten and just the way that he handles himself, I have a lot of respect for. Mm-hmm. Kenny Bell, who's a guy that Evan knows pretty well. Yep. Mm-hmm. He played for Lovie as well, and he is as complimentary of Lovie as I've heard anybody be about a coach. So he must be a really special guy. Yeah. Talked about Luke Fickle on here, so I'm not going to spend more time talking about him. My high school coach, Ed Terwilliger, who's now a recruiting assistant at Ohio State, was great. But for me, there's a guy that we talked about this morning, actually offline. It's Tony Alford. Mm-hmm. And we met when he first got hired in 2015 up in the meal area at training table, and he was sitting at a table by himself. And I'm like, who's the new guy? And he's, haha, he, and like, Tony Alford, pleasure to meet you, just got hired here, new running backs coach. And he's like sitting there eating his plate by himself. I'm like, only fucking weirdos eat by themselves. Like, come hang out and be a dude. And just started talking, probably spent an hour with each other that morning, just getting to know each other. But like, he's a guy who, he knows Madison and he knows my mom and dad. And I've been over to his house and I know his wife and his 3 sons. And he never coached me. He's a running backs coach, but he's a genuine soul. And that's why we connected on a level. And I know like the guys who did things the right way out of his room, they love him. They have nothing but great things to say about him. He's a special person.
Yeah.